This week on Financial Choices Matter, we're going to talk about a topic we don't often do, which is taking RMDs in the form of stock. So, Charles, we're going to have you break this down for us this week. How you doing, my friend?
I'm well. You make it sound like we're going to make this up as we go along, which is not necessarily inaccurate, but
yeah, we don't script things. We don't, we just do some bullet points. We just kind of do some generic things as far as giving us guidelines on what we want to talk about. But this is a topic that I've been interviewing financial advisors such as yourself for years, and I don't know that I've talked about it more than a couple times, really, and that's taking RMDs in the form of stock. So why is that?
I don't know. I know how I think. I have no idea how anybody else thinks. It's confusing enough for me. I don't think people think about it. I think they just take the cash. They take money out. You have to take a required minimum distribution when you reach age 73 out of your retirement account, your IRA, your 401k, whatever it happens to be. You're required to take it out. You got to put it in pre-tax. You got to let it grow tax-free. But now when you take it out, you've got to, there's a requirement at 73 that you begin taking it out. You can't let it last forever. But so most people,
Uncle Sam wants their cut, right?
They let you have it for a while. Now they want it back. And if you've ever dealt with them, you're always on the losing end of the proposition. But having said that, I would bet 99.5% people just take it in cash.
So who would you ask about doing this? Is this HR or?
My contention would be no, it's not their job. It's your job. It's your job as the participant, not the HR's company. Not your company's HR department to tell you. They could educate you on it, or they could provide somebody to educate you, just doing a simple, 10-minute video and explaining to people what it is, like kind of what we're doing now. And not everybody's going to want to do it anyway, but you can do it. Let me back up a little bit. This came from Ed Slott. If you've ever read anything from Ed is a CPA, and he's really, really good at coming up with some of these little unknown spots of opportunity, if you will, in the way the tax code is written and the way things happen. So this is just truly, I'm looking at an article that he'd written a while ago. They don't have to sell stocks inside their IRA, for example, to create cash to take it out. Instead, they can use the stocks or mutual funds if they've got them there. And so that you don't have to sell them inside there. So you can take the RMD amount in kind, meaning as the stock. You own Microsoft. So you can take Microsoft stock, transfer it from your IRA to a regular taxable account. Okay? And yes, the value of that, you do have to pay tax on that. But you still owe the tax money. But what happens then is the Microsoft stock, I'm using that as an example, that you transferred out of your IRA, or you probably wouldn't have it in a 401k, but out of your IRA into a regular taxable account, that what it does now is it establishes a new cost basis. The cost basis you bought it originally for inside your IRA is what you originally paid. It's gone way up in value. So now you take it out to satisfy your required minimum distribution. It's hard to say if you say it really fast 3 times. RMD. And
it's like Beetlejuice.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, don't do that. For those of you that haven't watched, go watch and you'll know why. So you get a new cost, you get a new basis for the value of that stock. So the gain that it had inside, you're not getting taxed on as you take it out. You're taking it out as the cost, the value of the actual stock itself. So it now.
So it's like a step up in basis.
You basically get a step up in basis of money coming out of an IRA, which is a really slick little deal. So. You want to be sure you keep track of it. You need to take notes so that you have the value of the particular stock the day that you transfer it out into your other account.
All right, Charles. So what I'm kind of hearing you say is it's kind of similar to a Roth conversion strategy, right? When the markets are down, like they were in April, for example, if you're doing some conversions, you're paying on the lower amount because your values are down, right? So same kind of idea.
It's similar in that context. And the other thing is you still pay the tax bill that you're required to pay for taking the distribution out, but you've created a new, you bought it originally inside your 401k or your IRA at 100, and now it's at 500. Well, now you took it out and you only get taxed on what you take out. Now you've got a new stepped up original cost of $500. And so, you've saved tax on that beyond, then you've got a taxable event going on. But in the meantime, you were able to miss all of that gain because you took it out as a required minimum distribution. It's a really quirky little nuance, but if you use it,
could be a cool strategy, very smart strategy. Yeah.
And you can do it for anything. It doesn't make any difference. So
in-kind distribution would be the term.
Yeah. You take a distribution in kind and create a new step up in basis for the money coming out of an IRA or 401k into your own taxable account.
Okay, so Charles, so who would this be useful for? Like, because I know oftentimes people will say to their advisor, they'll say, "Oh man, RMDs, why are you making me pull money out of the account?" And it's like, well, I'm not making you, Uncle Sam's making you. But could this be an option for folks who don't need the money, right? So again, that same kind of thing is where you have to take it out so you can, pay them the tax money that they want, and they're just looking to reinvest it. So this could be an option.
They still get their tax money. You still get to keep the stock that you want to keep, but you have a new basis. So it's like you're starting all over, like you just bought it today, even though you bought it potentially years ago.
Nice little strategy to think about.
Yeah, I think it is. It's just, and it's one of those obscure little things that exists. It's just who goes and hunts and digs through all this junk. Ed does, Ed Slott, and he finds this stuff and then he tells you. So it's, always the opportunity to learn something new that you didn't know. Always, almost every day.
Well, it's always an opportunity to learn, as you just said. So hit us with a little factoid about inflation. What's something there to learn?
Last 20 years of inflation has, over the last 2 decades, okay, this is from Nationwide Insurance. So that's a pretty reputable source, in my opinion. And I just found this a couple of months ago. All goods and services inflation, 71% over 20 years. That's costs you 71 cents more to buy $1 worth of stuff now than it did 20 years ago. If you're in the healthcare cost arena, that's now, instead of 71, it went up 110. So that's a 55% more inflationary impact on healthcare costs over 20 years. So as we've talked about a lot in previous podcasts and stuff, the whole idea of long-term care insurance, healthcare costs are going up. The older you get, the more it costs. This is just another example of the realities of, 55% greater inflationary over the last 20 years for healthcare than just general goods and services.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of a dad joke type of thing there. It's easy to meet expenses, Charles. Everywhere you go, there they are.
Oh, that's the one I wrote down. You stinker. Yeah, that's a great one. That is. There they are.
Well, obviously some good conversation there around taking RMD in the form of stock, in kind conversation there. But we're going to wrap it up with an email question as well. So let's see what we've got this week. All right. So our email question this week, listener says, I'm kicking myself for the fees I'm paying in a variable annuity. Obviously he wasn't listening to the show long enough to know, but he says, I'm trying really hard not to call and cuss this guy out for selling me one. What's your advice?
It can be, it doesn't always have to be, but I've been in insurance licensed as long as I've been securities licensed, which is a long time. And in the securities stuff, it's kind of self-explanatory. It's pretty obvious. What you see is pretty much what you get. In the insurance world, it's way more complicated and way more convoluted than that. We help people with insurance solutions all the time. But you've got to know exactly what you're presenting them with. You need to know exactly what the internal costs are, exactly what it's going to do. Because if you read it, it gets tremendously confusing in the details of all of this. And this is one of those situations where a variable annuity is like a mutual fund wrapped around inside an insurance product. And there's nothing wrong with them intrinsically. But what you have to know is, what are the costs? What are the costs of them? The insurance companies never lose money. They just don't. So that's the primary operational fact that exists in that world. They're not going to lose money. They're going to price this stuff so that it will always be profitable on that particular product. They will only sell as much of it as they want to, because then they have these risk tranches, if you will, where we want to take this much risk with this kind of a solution. And when we hit that stop, then they stop selling it, and they'll spin it in something else. You need to get down and dirty with the nitty-gritty details of what are the costs inside any insurance solution. We go to great lengths to try to explain in agonizing detail to some people exactly what they're paying for. And here's what
it isn't. Sorry to cut you off, Charles, but isn't that the problem with annuities in general, especially obviously variable, is they get oversold and underexplained?
Oh yeah, gigantically so. Yeah, you can. Yeah, and you've got. Yeah, it's a.
He's stunned. Yeah, there you go.
Well, no, but that's what it is, and the people, so many of them, and there's nothing wrong with people that are insurance professionals, because they provide a tremendous service, but you want to ask them for an explanation. I want to know exactly what the internal costs of this are. If you're marketing it as I'm going to get 5% return for the rest of my life, how is the insurance company going to get there? What are the costs that they're going to need to incur to make that happen for me? And I want to know how that impacts me getting to 5%. If they're getting to 9% and they're keeping 4% and I'm only getting 5%, that's not such a good deal. But if I'm getting my 5% and they're only earning 2%, then, you have to balance all of that out over a long period of time. It's just one of those things. Find out more. Learn more about it. Ask the right questions. I want to know where every penny that I put in goes to buying the insurance solution, because they cost money. And also that goes to the insurance company and the person selling this to me or recommending this to me. I want to know exactly who's getting what.
No, those are some great points, Charles. I mean, you said well said right there. So, if you find yourself in a similar situation as this email question, then make sure you're, reaching out to another qualified professional. Have them look over your situation. Oftentimes, advisors will go through that process and help you identify what's going on, and maybe even help you rectify it if it's possible. So, if you got some questions, need some help, get onto the calendar with Charles and Sherry and reach out to them at PelletonCapital.com. That's PelletonCapital.com, and don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple or Spotify or YouTube and catch new content as it comes out. And thank you so much for the question. We always appreciate those. So we'll see you next time here on Financial Choices Matter with Charles Scott.
Ready to learn more? Get a complimentary review of your retirement landscape today. Reach out to Charles and Sherry at Pelleton Capital. Don't wait and let time pass you by. Sit down and build a rock-solid strategy that keeps the focus on you and your family. Visit Pelleton Capital or click the link in the show description. And don't forget to subscribe to Financial Choices Matter on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
Financial planning and investment advisory services are provided by Pelleton Capital Management Limited, a state-registered investment advisor. Past performance is not indicative of future results. No one should assume the information presented here serves as a receipt of or substitute for personalized individual advice provided by Pelleton Capital Management. For more information, visit www.pelletoncapital.com.